welcome to Cooking It Real. If you're new here, I'm Kathy, and I am so glad that you're in the kitchen with me today. Why? Well, because we're coming up on the holidays, and let's imagine that you are the host for the season's feast. You have a fair number of guests coming, and so you are hot and heavy into planning and prepping, and you have everything in the works for your holiday feast. So now you're working your list and you're getting things done. You've done your cleaning, your shopping, you're planning all that stuff, and you get a phone call, and it's one of your guests. And they say, "Hey, Kathy, just to let you know that cousin Erlene and her new boyfriend, Bubba, are so excited to be coming to your feast, but I want to let you know that they're vegan." Huh? Vegan? Oh no. Can I do this? I wasn't planning on anything for vegans. First thing, don't panic. Seriously, don't panic. You can do this, and I'm going to help you. Let's take a quick second and talk about what is vegan. Now, a lot of people think, okay, a vegetarian, what does that mean? Well, they don't eat meat. That is true. But a lot of times a vegetarian, although they don't eat, quote, animals, will eat the offerings of animals, such as milk from a cow, which turns into butter or cheese or cream, and they're okay with that. Or eggs that a chicken freely gives. They're okay with that. Vegans, not so much. If you have a guest who is a strict vegan, you're going to have to be very mindful of that. But don't worry. I have a recipe that's going to cover every need of your vegan guest, and they're going to love it. It's going to be delicious. Your other guests might want to eat it too. And what could be better than that? All right, let's talk about what we're going to do. The basis of this fabulous dish is sweet potatoes. Now, we're not talking sweet potatoes like sweet potato casserole with, brown sugar and pecans and marshmallows and things, because let's talk about vegans now. Not only don't they do the gifts of animals like milk and eggs, they also don't do honey. They don't do gelatin, which is in marshmallows. So all that stuff, out the window. But if you've got some sweet potatoes, what we're going to do is we're going to bake them. We're going to stuff them with something that is so delicious. It'll become a complete protein dish. It'll rival your turkey. Don't believe me? Just watch. The first thing we're going to do is select our sweet potatoes. And for this recipe, I am going to make 4 sweet potatoes. Let's say that you have 2 vegans that are coming. You don't want to just make 2 portions, okay? Because for various reasons. The first one is that kind of makes them feel like they're singled out. They're somehow, they're not part of the group. And you might say, well, they're vegans. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has a choice in this world, thank goodness, and they're just choosing how they're going to eat. And you are going to learn something brand new, and you're going to be so proud of yourself in the end that you now know what you can serve a vegan guest happily, deliciously, and you can make them happy. All right, we need 4 sweet potatoes. When you're buying them, because they're going to be baked and then we're going to serve them in the jackets. Okay, so what you want to make sure is that they are good looking potatoes. You don't want anything wrinkly. You don't want them to have, big spots or blemishes or anything weird about them. Next thing you want to do is give them a real good scrub. Okay, now you want to give them a few pokes with a fork on a couple of sides, get them on a little tray, and we're going to bake them in a 350-degree oven for about an hour or until they are cooked through. All right, now let's talk about what exactly this recipe is. We are going to make quinoa stuffed sweet potatoes. Now, we've used quinoa before on this channel. I hope you remember. And it is a complete protein. It's a grain, an ancient grain, that is also a complete protein, which means it is just as good as meat, actually, when it comes to what it gives you for your body. So we're going to stuff it with quinoa. We're also going to add to it some cooked kale. We have onions. We have craisins, which are dried cranberries that are slightly sweetened, and chopped pecans. It is going to be a stuffed potato worthy of a feast. Now we're going to cook the quinoa in a veggie broth. So I have made a video about veggie broth. I'm going to link that in the description box. But today I only need 2 cups of veggie broth for these 4 sweet potatoes. So I'm just going to make a quickie, okay? Now you can buy veggie broth. They have it in stores, but it's just as easy to make your own. All right, so I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Carrots, celery, and onion. Going to use all that today. We're also going to add a couple of little tiny tomatoes from the garden. These are just little basically throwaway tomatoes. Going to put that in. I got a mushroom here, and I'm going to add a dried shiitake because these things are like flavor bombs, and mushrooms add a ton of umami flavor to any kind of stock. All right, now the carrot I scrubbed, and I'm not going to peel it because I scrubbed it really well. And we're going to cut these into kind of smallish pieces because I want to get them going while those potatoes are baking, roasting. We're going to get the stock going. And now I need 1 cup of onion for the dish. So I'm going to get this onion started. Sometimes I use peels in my stock, especially if I'm going to be using it as a soup broth, and you will see the broth because it lends a lovely color and just a little bit of flavor, but mostly color. But I'm going to cut the top, and let's get these little onion hairs off. Top and the bottom. So this is going in. There we go. And this and this. That much. There. That's going to go in the broth. Okay, I have 4 cups of water in my saucepan. Everybody into the pool. Hey, come back here, you. All right, I'll get you in a minute. I only need 2 cups, but I'm making a little bit. I put in extra because I want to boil the ever-loving out of this and get it going real good. Okay, so I got it on like almost the highest heat. I'm going to get a lid. We're going to get this up to a boil and just get this cooking. We're going to discard everything in the end, so we're going to hammer it. All right. Okay, so I cut up 1 cup of onions, and now I need 2 cups of kale. Now this is from the garden, and I don't know that I'm going to have 2 full cups because our kale is not, it's just kind of getting started. So it looks great, it is great, but I don't have a ton of it. But I'm just going to use what I have. I got 2 collard leaves as well. Just whatever, okay? Use what you have. Just going to roll this up, and this is going to get mixed in, so you don't want really big pieces. You don't have to make it teeny weeny, but you don't want it to be huge. Just going to put this over here. Yeah, it might turn out to be 2 cups. Yay. Okay, Mr. Collard, you get into if you have a favorite kind of green that you would rather use that you can saute in a pan, go ahead and use that, like spinach or escarole or anything like that. I have my half a cup of dried cranberries, or these are craisins, which are sweetened. You can use dried cranberries, you can use raisins, you can use whatever, or you could leave them out. But I think the little pop of sweetness is important. Is that you, Duchess? You need to go out. Okay, just a second. And then I have a half a cup of pecans. I didn't go out and buy pecans. I didn't have pecans, but I did have a container of mixed nuts. So I just picked out all the pecans. And I didn't quite have a half a cup, so I added a couple almonds. I think there's a pistachio in there. No big deal. You use what you have, and it will be fine. Just a second, Duchess, I'm coming. There. That's good. And the pecans will also add another layer of protein to this dish, besides its richness and crunch. All right. Beautiful. Okay, here you go. Good girl. The last thing we have to do is prep the quinoa. I have 1 cup of quinoa here, and I have mostly red quinoa with a little bit of white mixed in. You can use all red, you can use all white, you can mix it up, whatever you like. And I've showed how we do quinoa before. You need a fine mesh strainer. If you don't have a fine mesh strainer, you might want to just put it in a bowl of water and pour the water off gently, because if you have big holes, you're going to lose all your quinoa. So let's just give this a rinse. And sometimes the package will say that it's pre-rinsed. I always just give it a rinse anyway, because quinoa has a coating called saponin on it, and sometimes to some people it makes it taste bitter and a little bit soapy. So just going to let that sit and drain, and while we're waiting for our potatoes to roast and our stock to be made, we got time to hang out. So while we're hanging out, I'll tell you a little story. My son Brian and daughter-in-law Melanie, while they were dating, even before they were married, they were vegetarian. And then they transitioned into being vegans. And that was quite a challenge for our family gatherings, because like we're all foodies and we love everything. Well, all of a sudden it seemed like, are we never going to have a big like turkey dinner again? No standing rib roast, no burgers on the grill. Actually, it was a fabulous challenge. I really enjoyed it. And what we wound up doing, rather than making it so everything was always vegan, we just incorporated vegan dishes into our regular menu. It's very easy to do. In fact, I'm also going to link down in the description box a couple of other recipes that are vegan and also vegetarian. If it's vegan, then it's automatically vegetarian. Okay, so if you have vegetarians coming, you can use these recipes too. And one is a kale salad with a peanut dressing. That has become a family classic at holiday time, and or even in the summertime, all year round. So I'm going to share that one with you down below. And then I'm also going to share you another recipe that is not necessarily vegetarian or vegan, but it's for dinner rolls, sweet potato dinner rolls, because once we take potatoes out of the jackets, we're going to have some leftover sweet potatoes, and that is an excellent recipe to use it up. Okay, an hour has passed, and these potatoes are cooked. If you give them a squeeze, you can tell they're nice and soft inside. This one kind of squirted a little bit. Next time I might put foil down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a slit in each one, and I'm going to let them cool a little bit. Okay, because I don't want to pick these up when they're hot. But we do need to get the stuffing out. So I'm just not gonna cut them in half. I'm just gonna open them up a little bit and give them a couple minutes to cool. Maybe more than a couple minutes. See, some of these are bigger, some of these are smaller. But like I said, you want to make more than, if you have 2 vegan guests, you want to make 4. If you have 3 vegan guests, you want to make 6. You want to make it so everyone can get a chance to have some. Okay, let's see. I need a spoon. You can just open that up a tiny bit more. Get it cooling. Cool down, baby. These all can be done in advance, which is a huge help when you're prepping for a big dinner. Okay, so here's my broth that I strained out all the solids. It's kind of dark because I have to admit, I let it get a little bit away from me and it started to scorch and I had to add more water, but I'm just going to put 2 cups in just like that. And now, see, there's a little bit of solids in there, but that's all goodness. And that's not going to be anything bad. I'm going to give it just a pinch of salt. And I'm going to add in my quinoa. Ooh, careful now. So it's 2 cups of broth to 1 cup of quinoa. We're going to bring this up to a boil. We're going to cover, reduce the heat, and simmer it for 15 minutes. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. And now, while we're waiting for the quinoa to come up to a boil, I have a saute pan over medium-high heat, and we're going to cook our 1 cup of onions and our greens. Ooh, that's hot. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons, 1, 2, and a half of olive oil, and add in my onions. We're going to saute that until they're soft. That'll just take a couple minutes. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt to this and a little bit of pepper. Ooh, it smells good in here. Okay. The quinoa is coming up to a boil. I'm going to give it a little stir. I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, put it on low, and put a lid on, and set my timer for 13 minutes. Normally you cook it about 15, but this is going to go back in the oven. So 13 it is. All right, back to my onions. Okay, those are nice. Now we're going to add our greens in. And these we're going to cook for 3 or 4 minutes. Just going to get them started, basically. Okay. Now we're going to add in our nuts. That's just been a couple minutes. Give them a little stir. Now we're going to turn it way down to low. You don't want these nuts to burn. That's looking pretty, isn't it? Wait till I add these craisins. Woo! Beautiful. All right. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. Does that not look like a holiday? That looks like a holiday. All right. For now, I'm just going to turn this heat off. Still, we got about 10 minutes left on our quinoa. And now we're going to go back to our sweet potatoes. Okay, I got my measuring cup here. You can use a small bowl. These are much easier to handle now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my spoon and I'm going to take out a good amount of the filling. Once I get it out, I will show you up close what it looks like inside. It's still got a good amount of potato in there. See that? But I do have some out. And let's keep on going. Now, if you're making this in advance, you want to make sure that you cool everything completely and put it in the refrigerator. You can tell the quinoa is done when the liquid has been absorbed. I had to do mine just a couple extra minutes because it hadn't absorbed all the way. But sometimes if you just let it sit, turn off the heat, let it sit a little bit, it will absorb some more. Now this seems like an awful lot of quinoa, so I'm not going to add it all to this bowl just yet. I'm going to start just with like this much. See how that does us. There, I'm leaving about that. So I think I got about 2 cups in here, maybe 2.5. Ooh, that's hot and steamy. Now we're going to add the onion, kale, and the nuts and the craisins. Okay, all of it goes in. Scrape all that goodness. Beautiful. Put that there for now. Let's mix this up. I'm going to add back in a little bit of sweet potato. I probably need for those sweet potato rolls I was telling you about a cup of sweet potato. And I have about 1.5 cups here. So I'm going to add back about a 1/2 cup. You can come back in here. Alrighty. Mix that all up nice. And now we're going to restuff our potatoes. All right. Now a lot of it depends on the size of your sweet potatoes too. If they were bigger sweet potatoes, you'd need more filling. All right, these are kind of small, but nothing's going to go to waste. So let's just load this up. I covered my tray this time so I don't get any leakage. There you go, hang on. If you have leftovers, don't throw it away. Makes an excellent side dish. You can cool it completely, keep it in the fridge. You can, once it's cooled and refrigerated, you can put it in the freezer and use it for your next feast. Then you've got to jump on things. Okay, now it's going to go back in our 350 oven for about 20 minutes until everything gets together. Okay, and here we go. Time to taste. Oh, that smells very good. You can smell the kale just a tiny bit, but it smells more like sweet potatoes. Let me dive in here. Let's see. The pecans still have a little bit of their crunch, and the craisins have that pop of sweetness. Oh, this is yummy. I think you're going to like it. I think your guests are going to like it too. I highly recommend this dish, not just for a holiday, not just for vegans. Try this. Mm. Mm. All right. I know what I'm having for dinner. As always, I thank you for watching. And until next time, my friends, keep cooking it real. Bye, everybody.